speech tonight is from the Entertaining Speaker's Manual. It's 5 to 7 minutes long. The title is Lemons. The objective is to prepare a humorous speech from your own experience, strengthen it by adapting and adopting personal humorous material from outside sources, and deliver it in a way that makes humor effective. So I'm very much looking forward to Linda and her speech on lemons.
Yes, lemons. We have all probably had lemons in our lives. Madam Chair, fellow Toastmasters, I would like to tell you about a few lemons from my past. My first lemon was an 80s model Toyota Cressida. It was a beautiful car. It was the first fancy car I had ever had. We bought it at a time when interest rates were about 19%, and we bought this high-end vehicle. Payments were ridiculously high, but it was a nice car, so we kept on making the payments. Well, as it turned out, this high-end car wasn't that great. After a while, we'd only had it a few years, I had taken it in for a checkup, and the mechanic, the old Toyota mechanic, calls me and he says, I think there's a little more wrong with your car than we originally had imagined. It's looking like you're going to need a new engine. Okay, so how much is a new engine going to cost me? About $5,000. I said, well, how much will it cost to put it back together so I can come get it? $85. I'll be there in an hour. So I went, I collected my vehicle, gave them their $85, and I had, new engine? Why am I getting a new engine? It's fine. So for a good couple more years, that car lasted. All I had to do was keep topping up the oil at every gas station visit, and it was fine. Until finally, Christmas Eve. My children and I are traveling home from the mall with our last-minute parcels. And anybody familiar with Hospital Hill in Langley? Fraser Highway on the way to the hospital?
Yep.
Yes. Done. Over. Finished. The car wasn't going any further. I managed to get to the top of the hill and pull the car off to the side of the road at what used to be the Langley Township that's not there anymore. Called the tow truck. It's a very good thing that my children were just little and skinny, because the tow truck driver, my two boys, myself, and all the Christmas parcels had to fit in the front cab of the tow truck. The vehicle got towed to not the Toyota mechanic, the local mechanic, and it sat there for 3 months because I didn't have the repair cost. He could have fixed my vehicle for about $1,500, but I didn't have that either. Eventually, what happened, the mechanic offered me the amount that I needed to get out of the loan to buy it. So I ended up selling that car to him for $1,400. He probably fixed it up and sold it for $5,000. But there was nothing I could do. So then I was carless for 2 years. Busing from Aldergrove to Langley. Transit not the best between Aldergrove and Langley. So after 2 years of traveling to work in the rain, missing the last bus into Aldergrove, waiting a couple of hours for their co-workers to finish their shift to drive me home. My mother-in-law, one Christmas, so again, 2 years after the other car died, Christmas, I got a car for Christmas. It was the best thing I ever had. It was an 81 Dodge Omni. This was 1999. The hatchback was temperamental. maybe it opened, maybe it wasn't going to, you just never knew. The driver's side door, the handle was broken, sorry, the passenger side door, the handle was broken. But I didn't care. It was a roof over my head, it had an engine, and it could get me from point A to B. I was happy. But one of my children, bless his little soul, they're over at their grandmother's one day, and my child says, you know, Gran, Mom's car's pretty gutless. And she's the one that bought it for me. And as soon as he saw the mortified look on her face, he quickly said, but that's okay, Gran. So is Mom. So she kind of felt a little bit better. The car eventually, it got totaled at an intersection. We were okay, car was done. So I was lucky enough to have a friend who had an old 80s model Honda Accord, another hatchback, a hatchback that worked. She kept her car up. Every 6 months she took it in for tune-ups. It ran great. I think it had 300,000 kilometers on it when she sold it to me for about 700. I was happy. This thing was a 5-speed. It had guts. It was great. Till it got a hole in the muffler. But I still loved that Honda because that Honda had character. With this little hole in the muffler, I didn't mind. You know how going through the Dease Tunnel, the Harley drivers, they love to open it up in the tunnel? My Honda sounded just like that when I went through the tunnel. Everybody's looking at me, hey, I'm a Harley. And then the vehicle also, at one point, it's just kind of old, but engine wouldn't die, right? The driver's side window, there was a metal piece inside the door broke, so the window just fell inside. It wasn't coming back up. So, what do you do when you can't afford to fix it? You get a big, huge sheet of plastic, and you duct tape it to your car. It worked great. And then my son, who was in high school by then, he was going to a friend's party, and Mom was driving him to his friend's house. So we get into my Honda with its plastic on the window. It's pouring rain. It's windy as all get out. And the plastic on this thing is just flapping away in the wind as we're driving down the road. And I tell you, I'm sure I was more embarrassed than my son was when I pulled up to his friend's house. And we pull up to this huge mansion, this massive house. And here I am in my old beater of a Honda with its muffler and its plastic side window. And luckily, I was so happy, so happy that nobody was standing outside. Nobody saw us pull up. My kid didn't care. Bless him. He just didn't mind it because just that was our car. That's what it was. And eventually, it wasn't long after that for me, and some people already know this story about the money falling out of the sky for me. But I still, when I had enough money to go out and buy a brand new car cash, I kept driving that Honda for another 6 months before I decided that maybe I should get another car. Because I was gonna keep on going until this thing got to 400K. And it did. It may have had a crappy muffler, it may have had no window. We did eventually get that fixed. But it's still, with all of its little flaws, to me those flaws were character. The car still worked. Why did I need a new car? So yeah, Lemons seemed to be the cars that I was drawn to. And then when I did, before I bought myself a brand new Honda, yes, came the '69 Falcon, and that's a whole other story after that. Madam Chair. Okay.